The ship floated above a world that pulsed with life. From orbit, Earth did not look like the cradle of predators, plagues, and poisonous skies that galactic databases described. Oceans glittered like liquid sapphire, continents swelled with forests and storms, and lightning stitched across the horizon in flashing arcs. Inside the classroom dome of the orbiting vessel, 20 alien students pressed against the transparent wall. Their voices buzzed in a dozen tongues, but the emotions were the same: unease, awe, curiosity. Lyralen's delicate antennae quivered as she leaned closer to the view. To her compound eyes, Earth's colors were almost overwhelming: greens too sharp, blues too deep, clouds rolling in massive, shifting structures. It was alive in a way her sterile homeworld had never been. "Quiet!" Instructor Velkir snapped, his voice cutting through the chatter. His elongated mandibles clicked as he turned away from the observation screen. "No student will leave this vessel. You will observe Earth from here, and only from here." A ripple of disappointment ran through the group. Several students exchanged nervous glances. A reptilian youth raised his scaled hand. "But instructor, the program brief promised ground immersion. Are we not to?" "You are not," Velkir interrupted. His segmented fingers curled around his staff, a gesture more of comfort than authority. "The Federation's mandate requires me to prioritize survival over curiosity. Earth is not a museum. It is a death world. Its gravity alone would cripple half of you. Its atmosphere is dense with allergens and microbes lethal to unshielded blood. Every creature down there evolved through predation. And the humans themselves," his voice tightened, "are unpredictable." The room fell silent. Lyralen's thorax fluttered with restrained words. She had prepared for this journey for years, studying Earth biology, memorizing ecosystems, even learning fragments of the human tongue. To be told she would remain sealed behind glass felt like betrayal. "They don't seem so dangerous from here," whispered Kale, a mammalian classmate beside her. His wide eyes reflected the swirl of white clouds. "They are," Velkir said. "I have lost colleagues to their world. Do not mistake beauty for safety." The screen flickered, shifting to a live feed from the landing shuttle docked below. A human stood waiting at the base of a grassy plateau, his stance casual, a hand shielding his eyes as he glanced skyward. He wore a simple jacket and carried no weapon. His expression, unreadable to most, struck Lyralen as strangely open, like he was greeting neighbors, not visitors from beyond the stars. "That," Velkir said, pointing with disdain, "is our assigned guide. The Federation insists on human involvement in these tours, though I advised against it. His purpose is ceremonial. We will not join him." A murmur of protest stirred. The reptilian youth hissed softly. "If he expects us, will he not think us cowardly?" Velkir's gaze hardened. "Better cowardice than corpses." Lyralen felt her abdomen knot. The instructor's fear was palpable, but it carried a weight of history she did not share. She could not ignore the thrum in her mind that pulled her toward the surface. Every instinct warned of risk, yet something deeper, curiosity, defiance, hunger for truth, pressed louder. "May I ask a question, instructor?" she said, forcing her voice to steady calm. Velkir's antennae twitched. "You may. If the Federation permits humans to walk freely on dozens of worlds, if they sit in councils and trade markets, why do we call them unpredictable? Have they not proven restraint?" The instructor's mandibles tightened. For a moment, his tone softened, tinged with something almost personal. "You speak as one who has not seen their wars. Entire continents burned before they left their gravity well. They annihilated their own species countless times. Peace, when it exists, is fragile. That young one down there smiles because he knows nothing of the dangers his world breathes every hour. Or perhaps he knows too well." No one spoke. The hum of the ship filled the silence. Lyralen turned back to the planet. A storm front rolled over a mountain range, sunlight striking the peaks like blades of fire. The sight was terrifying and breathtaking at once. Her thin exoskeleton shivered, not from fear, but from desire. She wanted to feel that wind, to hear that thunder not through a filter but with her own senses. The shuttle's comm crackled. A voice, rough but steady, filled the dome. Field team, this is Daniel Hayes, your Earthside liaison. I've got clearance to take you through the foothills today. Weather's shifting quick, storm in 3 hours. Best to start soon. Students glanced at one another. The humans sounded ordinary. No menace, no grand declarations. Just information, delivered like a neighbor offering directions. Velkir moved to cut the channel, but hesitation slowed his hand. We will not be joining you, human, he said finally, voice clipped. Your storm makes surface conditions unsuitable. There was a pause on the line. Then a low chuckle. You're orbiting Earth. There's always a storm somewhere. But I'll log your decision. If you change your mind, I'll be here. The feed clicked silent. The class erupted in whispers. Some mocked the human's tone, others argued over the missed opportunity. Liralen remained quiet, her gaze fixed on the mountains below. She felt the pull again, an invitation Earth itself seemed to extend. She knew then, this field trip would not remain confined to observation. Something would force them to confront the surface, whether Velkir permitted it or not. As if to underscore the thought, the ship shuddered faintly. A warning tone chimed through the dome. Systems Officer Gerald's voice carried from the bridge. Instructor, one of our atmospheric probes has malfunctioned. It's landed off course, near the human guide's location. Velkir's mandibles clicked in frustration. Retrieve it remotely. Remote access is blocked, Gerald replied. Signal interference. We'd need manual recovery. The students froze. Their eyes drifted back to the screen, to the guide still waiting by the grassy plateau. The malfunction had tethered them to the surface. Velkir's voice turned steel. No one leaves this ship. Do you understand? Not for a probe, not for curiosity. We will await Federation support. But Liralen's heart raced. She saw more than a broken probe. She saw an excuse, a chance, perhaps destiny. Earth was calling, and she knew she could not ignore it forever. The alert faded, but tension lingered like static in the dome. A probe was down, wedged somewhere in the rugged terrain below, and the interference made recovery impossible without a physical presence. Velkir stood rigid, mandibles pressed tight. The Federation will dispatch a repair team. Until then, the probe will remain where it is. Students exchanged uneasy looks. A dozen pairs of eyes shifted toward the screen. The human, Daniel Hayes, still waited by the plateau. He seemed unaware of the probe's malfunction, hands tucked in his jacket pockets, posture loose. Kale leaned close to Liralen, whispering, That's our chance. If someone goes down, they'll have to meet him. She said nothing. Her gaze stayed fixed on the jagged ridges where the probe had landed, just beyond Daniel's position. The thought of stepping foot on Earth, real ground, not synthetic flooring, sent a tremor through her exoskeleton. Velkir's voice cut sharp. Erase the idea from your minds. None of you will attempt descent. This world is not an academy exercise. It is a hazard no syllabus can contain. A reptilian student hissed under his breath, but silence followed. Liralen returned to her quarters after dismissal, yet the vision of mountains under stormlight would not leave her. The hum of the ship felt sterile compared to the imagined roar of wind through trees. She replayed Daniel's voice in her mind, calm, ordinary, as if Earth's dangers were simply part of living. The knock at her door startled her. Kale slipped inside, ears twitching with nerves. You're thinking it too, he said. She didn't deny it. The probe, he continued. If Federation teams arrive, we'll be gone. This is the only chance to see Earth with our own eyes. You've heard Velkir, she said, though her voice carried little conviction. Kale's eyes narrowed. Since when did you hide behind orders? You've studied humans more than any of us. If anyone should set foot down there, it's you. Her chest fluttered with conflicting currents, duty on one side, longing on the other. She thought of Velkir's haunted words, of lost colleagues. But curiosity gnawed louder. How? She asked finally. Kale's lips pulled into a grin. The shuttle. Security is tight, but not airtight. A small team could slip in. The suggestion was madness, yet it rooted itself instantly in her mind. Hours later, under the veil of simulated night, four figures crept through the docking corridor: Liralen, Kale, the reptilian youth Ciro, and a silent avian named Rill. Their breaths rasped in the recycled air, hearts pounding in unison. The shuttle loomed ahead, sleek and waiting. Automated locks blinked in soft blue. Ciro extended a claw, tapping at the override panel with a skill born of defiance. A chime, then silence. The hatch hissed open. Inside, the craft smelled of fuel and polymer. Seats ringed the compartment, safety harnesses dangling. Liralen's antennae quivered as the hatch sealed behind them. For the first time, she felt the weight of rebellion. "Engage descent sequence," Kale urged. The console came alive under Ciro's touch. Lights swept across panels, engines rumbled awake. The shuttle trembled as clamps released. "Dock control will detect this," Rill whispered. "Then we'll already be gone," Kale replied. The shuttle detached, drifting into the void. A moment later, thrusters ignited, and gravity pressed against them as they pierced the atmosphere. Liralen's body convulsed under the pull. 1G was heavier than simulation, a crushing blanket over her limbs. She forced her eyes open. Flames streaked past the viewport as the shuttle tore through sky. Clouds boiled around them, white fire rolling in every direction. Her breath caught. This was no stereo projection. This was Earth swallowing them whole. The craft jolted as it broke through the storm line. Rain lashed the windows, droplets scattering in furious sheets. Below stretched endless green, forests dense and wild, rivers carving silver veins, mountains rising jagged and immovable. The shuttle set down with a bone-rattling thud on the plateau's edge. Harnesses released. Silence followed, broken only by the hiss of cooling metal. Liralen's limbs trembled as she rose. The airlock loomed ahead. A single door between them and a world no alien dared to tread. Kale grinned, exhilarated. "We made it," Rill muttered, voice thin. "Now we die." The lock cycled. With a groan, the outer hatch yawned open. The first breath hit like a shock. Earth's air was heavy, thick with moisture, filled with scents her mind struggled to parse: wet soil, resin, something sharp and electric. Liralen stepped forward. Gravity dragged at her joints, but she steadied. Rain splashed across her exoskeleton, cold and startling. The ground pressed firm beneath her feet, real ground, alive with vibrations. For a moment, awe silenced every thought. She stood on Earth. A voice carried through the storm. "Well, I'll be damned." Daniel Hayes stood a short distance away, rain plastering his hair to his forehead. His eyes widened at the sight of four alien figures stepping from the shuttle. He raised his hands slowly, palms open. "You kids weren't supposed to come down, were you?" His words were half amusement, half concern. Kale straightened. "We are students. The probe malfunctioned. We came to recover it." Daniel chuckled, though his gaze sharpened. "Your teacher's going to lose his mind. But you're here now." He glanced skyward as thunder rumbled. "Probe's about half a mile that way. We'd better move before this storm turns ugly." Liralen's chest fluttered. Despite Velkair's dire warnings, the human seemed calm, even protective. He wasn't a monster forged by a death world. He was simply alive in it. The group followed Daniel into the storm, each step sinking into soaked grass, each breath heavy but intoxicating. Danger surrounded them, yet for the first time, Liralen felt not fear, but belonging. Rain hammered down in relentless sheets as Daniel guided the group toward the ridge. The storm pressed heavy on their bodies, each drop stinging against delicate skin. Gravity pulled at every joint, demanding strength the students had never needed before. Liralen staggered but forced her limbs steady. Every sense was overwhelmed: the scent of wet pine, the roar of wind funneling through jagged cliffs, the raw pulse of a living planet. She had studied Earth through data and images, but no database had ever captured this chaos. Daniel moved with effortless rhythm, boots squelching through mud, jacket darkened with water. He glanced back often, adjusting his pace so the aliens could follow. "Stay close," he called above the storm. "This weather'll tear you sideways if you wander off." Ciro's scales glistened under the rain, his breath sharp with exertion. "How do you endure this?" he hissed. "The air drowns me." Daniel's grin flashed through the downpour. "Born to it. You get used to the weight, the wet, the noise. After a while, you stop noticing." Rill muttered, voice tight with strain. "That is unimaginable." Lyra didn't answer. She was too busy focusing on each step, too entranced by the surge of vitality all around. Despite the struggle, exhilaration hummed through her. Earth was alive in ways her sterile homeworld had never been. They reached a narrow trail winding upward. Mud clung to their feet, slippery and treacherous. Lightning cracked across the sky, illuminating the forest in stark silver. A deafening boom followed, shaking the ground. Cale flinched, ears flattening. "What was that?" "Just thunder," Daniel said. "Noise and light. Harmless unless the bolt finds you. Keep moving." "Harmless." Lyra shivered at the casual dismissal of such raw force. To Daniel, this world's fury was ordinary. To her, it was a reminder of why Earth was feared. After an hour of slow progress, the group crested a ridge. Through sheets of rain, a glimmer of metal shone among broken pines below, a dark shape half buried in mud and tangled roots. "The probe," Cale breathed. Daniel scanned the slope. "Looks like it hit rough. We'll need to dig it out." The descent was brutal. Gravity dragged at every motion, mud gave way beneath their feet, branches clawed at fragile limbs. More than once, Lyra nearly slipped, only to steady herself on roots slick with rain. At the base, the probe lay cracked but intact, its beacon blinking weakly. Steam hissed from fractured vents. Ciro crouched, claws scraping the casing. "We can recover the data core, but the shell is too damaged for lift." Daniel knelt beside him, brushing mud from the surface with bare hands. "If you pull the power unit first, it'll make the core extraction safer. Careful though, it's running hot." The students stared. His movements were sure, practiced, yet he treated the dangerous device like routine machinery. "You've done this before?" Lyra asked. Daniel shrugged. "Machines break. You learn to fix them, or you stay stranded." His tone was simple, but it struck her. On Earth, survival wasn't optional. It was constant adaptation. Together they worked. Cale steadied the probe as Ciro pried open panels. Rill recorded readings, muttering data points into a handheld unit. Lyra crouched beside Daniel, mimicking his motions. The mud smeared across her chitin, the storm pounded overhead, but she felt alive, part of something raw and real. Then the forest shifted. Leaves rustled in unnatural rhythm, deeper than wind. A guttural growl rolled through the rain. Every alien froze. Daniel rose slowly, eyes narrowing. "Stay behind me." Shapes moved between the trees, low, broad, and fast. The gleam of eyes reflected lightning. "Wolves," Cale whispered, trembling. "Predators." The pack emerged, 7 lean forms circling with calculated patience. Their fur bristled, teeth bared. Rain slicked their coats, but did not dull their hunger. Lyra's heart hammered. These were not simulations. They were hunters. Daniel stepped forward, planting himself between the wolves and the students. His voice dropped to a steady growl. "Back. Not your night." The lead wolf snarled, muscles coiled. For a heartbeat, time held. Then Daniel snatched a branch from the ground, thick and jagged. He raised it high, shouting with a force that startled even Lyra. The wolves flinched. They circled, testing, then backed a step. Another crack of thunder split the sky, and the pack scattered into shadows, vanishing as quickly as they came. Silence fell, broken only by rain. The students stood frozen, eyes wide. "You see?" Daniel said, lowering the branch. "Nothing mystical. You show strength, they reconsider. You panic your prey." Ciro hissed low. "That was survival against predators." "Alone." Daniel tossed the branch aside. "Not alone. You stand tall, others stand with you. That's how we live here. Lyralen's chest tightened. This was the truth Velkir had refused to face, not that Earth was only danger, but that danger taught resilience. With renewed urgency, they pulled the probe's data core free. It pulsed faintly, still functional. Rill secured it in a container, shielding it from rain. Good, Daniel said. Now we move before the wolves remember they're hungry. The climb back was harder, exhaustion heavy in every limb. Yet none complained. Each step carried the weight of revelation. Earth was brutal, but it did not forgive weakness. By the time they reached the plateau, the storm had begun to break. Clouds thinned, and pale sunlight bled across the horizon. The shuttle waited, metal glistening with rain. As they secured the core inside, Daniel leaned against the hatch. Your teacher's going to tear you apart for this stunt. But you'll remember it. Nothing out there teaches like this place. Lyralen met his gaze. She had no words, only the certainty that he was right. Earth had scarred her with gravity, drowned her with rain, threatened her with predators, and yet she had never felt more alive. The shuttle's engines roared to life. Above, the storm clouds scattered, revealing a slice of blue sky. For a fleeting moment, Earth did not look like a death world. It looked like a teacher. The shuttle climbed through thinning clouds, Earth shrinking below into a mosaic of green and stone. Inside, the students sat drenched, mud streaked across their skin and scales. The recovered probe core pulsed in its container, humming faintly. No one spoke. The weight of what they had done pressed heavy. When the clamps locked and the hatch hissed open, Velkir stood waiting. His mandibles quivered with fury and Tenny rigid. Out. All of you. They obeyed, shuffling into the docking bay. Lyralen felt her limbs sag under fatigue, but the storm of anger in the instructor's posture burned away any thought of rest. Velkir's gaze swept across the four of them before fixing on the container in Kale's arms. You defied direct orders. You endangered your lives. Do you even comprehend what you've done? Kale bristled, but Lyralen stepped forward. We retrieved the probe. Its data is intact. That probe is not worth a single life. Velkir's voice cracked with more than rage, it carried fear. Do you imagine Earth a playground? A world where you may wander unscathed? You are alive only by luck. Not luck, Lyralen said firmly. She met his gaze, though her body trembled. We survived because we learned. Because we stood with a human who faces those dangers every day. Velkir's mandibles snapped shut. The students stirred, emboldened by her defiance. Daniel appeared at the hatch behind them, water still dripping from his hair. He leaned casually against the frame. She's right, you know. They handled themselves well out there. Scared, sure, but they adapted. That's the only way you make it here. Velkir's antennae stiffened. You should not even be here. This world is poison. Your presence corrupts their judgment. Daniel's expression hardened. You've spent too long watching from glass. You see danger, and you stop there. But they saw danger, and they learned to push through it. That's what Earth teaches. The instructor turned sharply back to his students. You think yourselves brave? You know nothing. Earth has slain billions of its own children. The wolves you fled are nothing compared to plagues, famine, storms that erase cities. And the humans, his voice dropped to a whisper. The humans are the most dangerous of all. Their history is fire and blood. Lyralen stepped closer. And yet here one stands. He protected us. He guided us. His world tried to break us, but it also showed us strength. You call them dangerous, but what if danger is what made them strong? Velkir froze. For a moment, his authority faltered. Behind his eyes flickered memories only he carried, colleagues lost, expeditions ending in silence. But fear had calcified into law, and now that law was breaking. Kale's voice rose. Instructor, we faced predators and storm. We carried the probe through mud and thunder. If Earth wished us dead, we would not be here. Cyril hissed in agreement. I felt terror. But also clarity. My claws found purpose. Rill added quietly. The data will prove valuable. But the lesson, greater still. Though Kir turned away, mandibles grinding. Silence thickened. Daniel broke it with a low chuckle. You remind me of the first explorers I read about in your archives. They looked at Earth, wrote uninhabitable, and walked away. But humans didn't walk away. We stayed. We fought the storms, the beasts, each other. We bled for every inch. That's why we are what we are. Though Kir's voice, when it came, was weary. And what are you, human? Daniel's gaze sharpened. Alive. That's the only title that matters here. The words settled heavy, undeniable. Lyralyn took a breath, her voice soft but steady. Instructor, perhaps Earth is not a death world. Perhaps it is a teacher, and we are the ones who fear its lessons. The silence stretched, broken only by the hum of the probe. Though Kir closed his eyes, mandibles trembling. At last, he spoke, voice strained. You disobeyed, and for that, punishment must come. But I cannot deny the truth you bring. Earth has scarred you, yet you stand. That alone may be the lesson the Federation refuses to see. The tension eased. Not victory, not forgiveness, but acknowledgement. Daniel pushed off the hatch frame, a wry smile tugging at his lips. Then maybe the field trip wasn't wasted after all. The students exchanged glances. Tired, soaked, shaken, but changed. Lyralyn felt the weight of earth still pressing on her bones, the scent of rain still in her lungs. She knew she would never see her homeworld the same way again. Though Kir turned sharply. Dismissed. Return to quarters. I will consider what must be reported. As the group filed out, Lyralyn lingered. She looked back at the viewport, where Earth turned slowly below, vast and unyielding. Fear still whispered in her chest, but it no longer ruled her. For the first time, she understood, the galaxy had misnamed Earth. It was not a death world. It was proof that life, even under impossible odds, could endure and thrive. And perhaps, one day, she would return.